Today on SUNUP, it's all about the calibration. We'll help you get that planter ready for the field. Plus, the potential for fall wheat pasture in Oklahoma and how forage conditions are looking across the region. And a sure sign summer's drawing to a close. It's county fair season. All this and more next on SUNUP.
Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. With corn harvest here and fall planting underway, we begin this morning with some important reminders about crop insurance deadlines. Here's our Ag Policy Specialist, Jody Campeacci.
Some of the crop insurance and NAP deadlines are quickly approaching. The first deadline is coming up on September 3rd, and that is for the NAP program through the Farm Service Agency. It's the Non-Insured Disaster Assistance Program. This deadline on the 3rd is for small grains, mostly used for grazing, and a few others. And that is definitely an important deadline, September 3rd, which is Tuesday. The next deadline is September 30th, and that is crop insurance for wheat, oats, barley, and rye. So that is the crop insurance program that most producers in Oklahoma use. We have a lot of wheat acres. So September 30th is the final deadline for that. The next deadline is November 15th for the pasture, rangeland, and forage program. And again, that is the rainfall index program that provides insurance on grazing or hay.
Thank you, Jody. Kim Anderson, our grain marketing specialist, joins us now. And Kim, let's get right to the market. The week started off with a 20-cent price increase.
And that got everybody excited, but all that 20 cents did was put us in the top half of the sideways trading range that the wheat market's been in. You look at that December contract, you know, it's got support at $6.93 and resistance at $7.26. After Monday's price rally, it just really spent the rest of the week climbing back down into the lower half of that trading range. You look at what's going on, just not much going on in the wheat market. This is the week before a three-day weekend, and so the traders are really just getting into positioning themselves for the long weekend. Next week's going to be the critical price time, probably Tuesday. Tuesday's close is going to, if it's still in this trading range, means we're just going to continue sideways.
And with that in mind, what do you think the driving forces are in the wheat market moving forward?
Well, there's nothing going on in wheat, so the driving forces was the corn. You know, the weather forecast had it for hot and dry in the Midwest. The traders got all excited about lower corn production. You know, USDA has lowered it down to near 1.8 billion, just slightly, 1.84 billion bushels, somewhere in there, down from 2 billion in the June's report. I think reports indicate that it's probably going to be a little less than 1.8 billion, and the trade got excited about that and rallied corn prices, and wheat followed along. Okay.
Let's look at your predictions for December wheat and then June 2014 wheat. What do you think there?
Well, without any fanfare or description, looking at December, I've been vacillating between $7 and $7.25. I think I'm going to stay with the $7.25 now. And in June of next year, I'm betting on a big crop, $6 wheat, average, June of 2014.
Okay. Kim Anderson, always good to see you. We'll see you again next week.
Last week on the Cow-Calf Corner, we visited with you about what we call the length of stage 2 of calving, and we mentioned that in the case of mature cows, that should be on the average about 30 minutes, and for those first calf heifers that have never had a calf before, it's going to be twice that or about an hour. Obviously, then the question comes, well, what difference does it make? Why don't I just wait until the cow goes ahead and has the calf, no matter how long it takes? Well, there's some research that gives us the indication that probably we shouldn't wait extended periods of time past those norms before we provide some assistance, because it affects both the calf and the cow. In the case of the calf, if it's going through an extended stage 2, what's happening is, due to the contractions of the uterus on that calf and therefore the trapping of the umbilical cord, we set up a situation called respiratory acidosis, which just means the calf isn't getting enough oxygen and the byproducts of breathing, the carbon dioxide and such things as lactic acid buildup, and cause that calf to be weakened. And some producers might call it a weak calf syndrome. So if that time is extended, then we've got a higher likelihood of having a calf that's weakened, slow to get up, slow to find the teat, and therefore slow to find the colostrum that's so important. In the case of the cow, if it goes through a prolonged stage 2 of calving, we know from research up in Montana that those cows are slower in terms of coming back into estrus for their next breeding season, and therefore are less likely to get bred in that breeding season. And so we have an impact here on both the calf and the cow if we allow this stage 2 to go on for an extended period of time past the norms. So that's the reason why that if we see a cow straining but not making progress, a mature cow in 30 minutes, we probably need to get her up and examine to see what's going on. And the same thing with that first calf heifer. If she's not making progress in an hour, we probably need to be able to give her some assistance. And let's remember to call our veterinarian. If we find something that we can't find and take care of ourselves, get that veterinarian's help as soon as possible. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Planters will soon be rolling across our state, making this the time to clean, prep, and calibrate. But for farmers used to planting wheat, canola, with its tiny seeds, can present a few challenges.
Obviously, seed size is a major issue. Canola seed size is quite a bit smaller than wheat seed is. It's round, and we're planting at a lot lighter planting rate than we would on wheat. Wheat, we're somewhere around 50 to 120 pounds an acre. Canola, we're around 4 to 5 pounds per acre.
That smaller scale for seed means that even tiny variance in machinery can make a major difference in stand establishment and operating margins.
If we don't have a good calibration, we don't put the seed where it needs to be, we don't operate the equipment how it should be operated, we're just hurting ourselves from the get-go.
Because of this, we asked Bashong to walk us through the key things to keep in mind while getting your box planter ready for canola.
When we're talking about grain drills, depending on the manufacturer, there's several options available to the producers. Most commonly for the box drills would be a flute feed seed cup. Basically it's a gear drive sprocket on the shaft which meters the seed. With canola being such a small seed, sometimes getting it shut down quite enough can be an issue. A lot of times when we're trying to get to that 5-pound seeding rate, not much of that flute is showing inside of the seed cup. So to get around that, either producers can buy a half speed or a different drive type for their drills to slow down that drive on that shaft. Another way around it is to buy some plugs or use some duct tape and plug every other seed cup. So we're planting half as many seed cups to get that 5 pounds the acre. Essentially, we're able to plant twice as much out of each seed cup instead of trying to go every hole. And our research at OSU has shown that row spacings from 6-inch all the way to 18 inches, there's no yield difference. So if a producer has to go to a wider row spacing in order to get his drill calibrated, there's not an issue there as far as the yield potential. Some other grain drills on the market will have a little bit different seed cup, kind of like this one. Basically, you can still move the shaft left and right to open up that seed cup more or less. On all the different box drills, there's going to be variability from cup to cup, from seed cup to seed cup. If they have a lot of wear on them, you can just double check, make sure you're not crushing any seed. That goes for any of the grain drills. If you've seen canola before, it's going to be black on the outside. It's going to be blue if it has a seed treatment. The inside of the seed is always going to be a bright yellow. So when you're collecting the seed, and if you see a lot of yellow parts without the holes on it, you know you're crushing the seed. So we might have to do some different options or look at different equipment for your operation.
To calibrate the drill, the team here at Oklahoma State University has developed a kit.
Basically, the kit includes several packs, just like the one the whole kit is included with, and it comes with a few extra packs. So we can put these on the bottom of the seed cup and collect that seed as we're metering it.
The kit is based on a 100-foot driving distance. Growers can either flag off a 100-foot area, or as Bashong prefers, mark and measure the drive wheel, then jack up the wheel and turn it the necessary number of times.
Instead of dumping the whole box full of seed, oftentimes I just take a cup and fill each seed cup on the ones I'm collecting from. So I can just mount it up on the seed cups I'm collecting from. We really want to put the bags on the bottom of the seed cup instead of on the bottom of the drop tube, just because like these are corrugated tubes, the canola might hang up in there. So to be a little bit more accurate, we put these bags directly on the seed cups themselves. Once you have some bags on the openers you're going to collect from, you shouldn't be spilling any seed because you got bags on the ones you put seed on. Go off the calibration chart for the drill. If it has a canola or a rapeseed setting, go ahead and set it to that. Make sure you're on the right drive type. And then we collect all those 4 bags. And in the kit, we have a couple different vials. If you're wanting to look at each seed cup individually, you can use the smaller vial. But more than likely, I usually just collect all 4 bags and put them into the bigger tube. And then you can look at the chart. So say your drill is on 7.5-inch row spacing, and we collected from 4 rows, we would need to catch 18.6 milliliters from all 4 of those in 100 feet. So we turned the drive tire 100 feet, we collected from all 4, we put it in the bag, and then we can compare to the number we need to be at. So like I said, it all depends on how many seed cups you collect from. The more you collect from, the more accurate your calibration is going to be. And obviously if we're calibrating in a static position, jacking up the drive wheel and not driving the tires or not driving the drill across the field, you might get a little bit more out bouncing across the field. But more than likely you're going to be a lot closer going through this calibration process than just dumping the seed in and seeing how much you put out across the field.
This free kit is available through your county extension office. And once you are properly calibrated, Bashong says the next step is putting seed in contact with the soil.
We don't want to put too much down pressure on the press wheels. We want just enough to close that furrow, but we don't want it to compact it to lead to soil crusting issues if we get a downpour, or those furrows silting in if we leave a big trench with the furrow or with the openers. Make sure your discs are in good condition. If you're in a no-till situation and got coulters out front, make sure those coulters are good and sharp. Make sure you're planting in the heat of the day so you're not hairpinning that straw into the furrow. We want to be able to take those coulters and cut that weak straw and get it out of the way if possible. And then as far as planting depth, it'll depend on soil conditions and soil texture and soil moisture. We prefer to have the seed into moisture if we have it available. But overall, we're going to plant a little bit shallower than we do with wheat. Typically, we're at that 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in conventional tilled if we have a good seed bed prepared. If you're cloddy or have a lot of residue out there, in no-till situations, I'm going to plant a little bit deeper, maybe closer to 1 inch deep, just to make sure we have that seed into soil, not into that wheat straw. But we'd like to drive slow enough to where we get good, consistent planting depth. In the research we've done, that's been around 5 miles an hour. I know a lot of times we're trying to get over as many acres as possible, but slowing that drill down to 5 miles an hour, you're more than likely going to get a lot better stand. And we've seen that with producers' drills, and we've seen that across the state, across different soil textures.
If you'd like to learn more about this process, visit the SUNUP website, sunup.okstate.edu, and look at our links section for current report CR 2152.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. This August is almost history, and it looks like it will go down as a cooler one. A chart of high temperatures for Hinton shows 2013, the blue-filled-in area, compared to the average high temperatures, the gold line, over the last 10 years. At Hinton, August started out with daytime highs close to average, then had a week of cooler than average highs, climbing back to close to average this last week. Check out the downward trend in average daytime high temperatures through September. Every day now we march closer to those cool fall temperatures. Warmer temperatures and no rainfall in late August has left our soils drier. On a map of plant available water from the surface down to 16 inches, the drier dark brown areas in the south and west cover almost half of the state. Checking deeper plant available water from the surface to 32 inches, we see less brown areas and more green. That means some decent deeper soil moisture for much of the state. Here's Gary with a look at our current rain and drought conditions.
Thanks, Al, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be back here on SUNUP. Let's start, as usual, with a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map released on Thursday. And as you can see, our improvements in the Drought Monitor maps started to go away with the rainfall, I'm afraid. We started to see an increase in that D0 across north central and south central Oklahoma. Now that's not drought itself, that's abnormally dry conditions, but it is the precursor to drought. But we also saw an increase in that D1 moderate drought down in the far southeast. And of course we still have severe to exceptional drought across the western third of Oklahoma. Now let me show you why. And you know, when we look at the rainfall maps from July 9th, when the rainfall really started this summer, through the August 28th period, you can see lots of rainfall since July 9th. In fact, the statewide average was about 8.13 inches, and that's about 3.6 inches above normal. Just a bit of dryness showing up across the southeast and the southwest, which we know about, of course. However, let's take a look at what has been happening across the state since August 18th. So the August 18th through August 28th period, again, almost all the stations in the state have gone without rainfall. 11 days, add a lot of heat, and you get increasing drought conditions when the rainfall goes away. In fact, if you take a look at this period, the August 18th through the 28th, with a statewide average of 0.03 inches of rainfall, that's the second driest such period on record dating back to 1921. So even for August, that's fairly dry. So even though we had great rainfall this summer, now we need the rains to come back. And Mother Nature has been certainly very generous to us this summer. So let's hope that she turns the spigots back on and we can start back with the drought relief. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
We have our good friend Daryl Peel here to talk about livestock markets. And Daryl, let's just jump into it. How are things looking in the markets?
You know, most all of the markets have been moving up recently. In fact, it's been kind of a nice thing to have the markets all kind of move in the same direction, but at different paces right now. We've seen, you know, the feeder cattle markets have been the hottest over the summer. We've seen a very strong move up in feeder cattle prices over the last 3 months or so since lows in May. Fed cattle prices and wholesale box beef prices both bottomed in the summer. We've moved past those lows. We've moved somewhat higher, but it's a bit more of a slower grind on those. You know, from the standpoint of both feedlot supplies and in box beef production, you know, we're moving towards higher numbers. We're going to move towards a significant decrease in both slaughter and beef production in the last part of the year. But for another month or two here, it's a bit more of a slow grind as we make progress in the fall.
Okay, and speaking of fall, a lot of producers are thinking about wheat pasture. What are you hearing about that?
You know, with the improvement we've had in moisture conditions, removal of the drought in much of Oklahoma, and even some of the areas that are still in drought and still have some underlying drought issues, they've received moisture recently. And so there's the best prospects really, I think, for fall wheat pasture establishment this year in Oklahoma that we've seen in a long time. I've done quite a bit of traveling lately, and I've seen a lot of field work done. You know, fertilizers being applied, folks are getting ready. I suspect in this, you know, post-Labor Day period, we'll see an awful lot of activity across much of Oklahoma as folks plant wheat and get ready for some early fall forage for the first time in several years.
It's kind of a nice change.
That's right.
And let's talk about forage as a whole across the southern plains, not just Oklahoma.
You know, in general, we've seen a lot of improvement in drought conditions. We do still have some drought areas that's increasingly confined to the western Great Plains, if you will, western Kansas, western Nebraska, and then down through the New Mexico area. There's still a lot of drought, but even much of those areas, again, have received at least some moisture recently. They've greened up. They're going to get a little bit of fall pasture growth. And so even there's some improvement, even though they still have underlying drought conditions.
Okay, are prices on cattle worth putting those cattle on wheat?
You know, we've seen the big run up in feeder cattle prices, and so, you know, that impacts the margin from the standpoint of a higher purchase price, as well as stronger prices for what you expect to sell. The margins are generally somewhat attractive. You know, as we push these prices higher, we're going to price all of the margin out of these cattle, if you will. But right now, I think it still works, and relative to what the futures market is, there's a good opportunity for wheat pasture cattle this fall. I think a lot of folks will be looking at those cattle, and there is an opportunity there. We have to be a little careful going forward. We may have more wheat pasture than we really have cattle available. That may tend to push the prices higher than they really can afford to be. And so I think producers have to be a little bit careful with their budgeting, but in general, there is a good opportunity for wheat pasture this fall.
Something to think about.
Absolutely.
Darryl Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Now to the business of beef and a look at what's planned this fall for the Oklahoma Quality Beef Network.
Spring calving cows are fixing to wean our calves. Some producers are already doing that. And it's a good opportunity to add value to that cow herd and manage those calves in a way which we can capture more value and increase income back to the producer.
Eric DeVries looked at data collected from previous OQBN sales and found that there are financial advantages to added value programs.
Found that 80% of the time, producers involved in a program like OQBN get a little over $70 a head back premium as compared to a balling non-weaned calf going through the auction ring.
45 days may not be the usual for weaning calves before an auction, but it could make a difference.
Some producers may pull those calves off the cow for a week to 10 days and give them one vaccination, something along those lines. My suggestion would be is if we're going to precondition a calf, take them all the way through a program. And if you don't verify them, please get them those 2 rounds of vaccinations, get some good feed into them, get them broke to a bunk, and get them where they perform well for you at auction, and whoever goes and purchases that calf doesn't have to worry about that added stress like someone buying a calf 5 to 10 days into a weaning program, because really that's the most stressful time a calf has almost in its whole entire life.
There are a couple new dates on the OQBN calendar that producers should know about, and they are coming up soon.
Cherokee Livestock is going to be our first sale, and it's actually October 30th, and then immediately following that on November 1st at Elk City with Brandon Hickey and his family. So we're excited to bring those opportunities to western Oklahoma, and keep in mind those calves have to be weaned September 15th for the Cherokee Livestock sale, and September 17th for the Elk City Livestock sale. And hopefully there's a little bit been some summer rains out there, and create some opportunity for those guys in western Oklahoma.
Another new addition is the OQBN preconditioning program for stocker cattle.
And one idea behind it was to have some opportunity open up for producers that are maybe retain some cattle on wheat pasture, and hopefully we'll have more spring sales come March, and if we keep some cattle through graze out on into May as well.
Deli luncheon meats are a popular item, and in the last 7 to 10 years there's been an emergence of a new style or a new type of deli luncheon meats, and that has been a no nitrate or no nitrite added deli meat. You can find these in many different brands and many different configurations in the marketplace today, and I want to talk about how that came to be. Traditionally, deli luncheon meats have had an ingredient added to them, sodium nitrite, because of its positive effects on color, flavor, aroma, and shelf stability. There's been some negative implications presented about the use of sodium nitrites, and so processors and the market have responded with a no nitrite added product and made it available to consumers. The mechanism by which processors have been able to produce and label and present a no nitrite processed meat item is through the use of select ingredients which have been approved by the USDA as natural flavorings. Examples of these may be vegetable powders, such as celery powder or beet powder or other vegetable powders, which naturally contain a high level of nitrates. Those vegetable powders are then blended with a bacterial culture, which acts to reduce that nitrate into nitrite. So essentially the same compound is being added to the meat items, but because of the current labeling regulations, that nitrite is allowed to be labeled as naturally occurring that comes along with the natural flavors. So the lesson here for the consumer is to read the label. There's lots of information on the label, both large bold print and fine print. Read the label, try to understand what the processor is telling you so you can make an informed decision.
Finally, today it's county fair time, so we leave you with some highlights from Texas County, and we'd love to see your pictures of the county fair. Just upload them on the SUNUP Facebook page or on the SUNUP Instagram. I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.